So now we are talking about, that is why we are talking about is cloud access, governance and intelligence, right?
Okay.
So what we are saying is that we have done the basics. We know how to, let's say, configure Saviynt. We know how to configure rules, technical rules, user update rules, and everything, and we have set it up. But now we want to create reports so that we can know the health of the system is fine. What type of users are working in my organization? Do they have any over access? Do they have any under access? All such scenarios needs to be covered. So for that, what happens is other IDM tools such as Oracle Identity Manager or ForgeRock, they have very complicated way of generating reports. Okay,
Okay.
whereas as we discussed, if you remember, we were discussing about workflows in our last discussion, and I
Yeah.
talked about how easy workflows was to configure. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, the business case can become very complicated. That I want the first request to go to this and then to that and this and that, but that is still manageable if you can just drag and drop things, right? If you
Yeah.
have to code the entire logic, maybe do a testing round, maybe then your testing team will test it and then you do a deployment. It is a very cumbersome process, and as compared to that, this is very simple. So is the case with analytics. So if you want to generate reports in other applications, it is comparatively difficult because you'll have to come up with the logic. You again might have to write something called as schedulers and process tasks and all that stuff, which is not required here. Here
Okay.
again, write very simple. If you know how to write MySQL queries, you are almost done. Okay,
Okay.
I'll tell you how you are done.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So here
firstly,
we are going to use MySQL.
exactly MySQL.
Okay.
I mean, it is a MySQL server. The queries are usually SQL, very basic queries. At most,
Okay.
even if it gets very complicated, you might have some joins that will come into the picture. But you can
Okay.
actually avoid that as well in case you want to. Okay, so I'll
Okay.
tell you how to make sense of this though. Okay, so what we're talking about is that identity analytics is a discipline that applies logic and science to identity access to data, provide insights for making better IAM decisions. So this is the major part, that we want to make sense of how our system is running, right?
Okay.
Once we get that report, we'll be able to understand what are the flaws in the system, what are the shortcomings, what do we need to improve upon, right?
Okay.
So what they're saying is the identity analytics tools employ features that move organization towards a, I mean, this is, I mean, doesn't even matter. Forget it. So let's talk about actual scenarios, how to configure this. So there are two type of analytics to be frank. Okay. One is
Okay.
called as the normal analytics where I'm just fetching reports. There is an advanced version of analytics where we can also perform actions. So to give you an
Okay.
example, I generate a report of all the users who doesn't have a manager assigned to them. Okay,
Okay.
or I get a list of all the accounts of such users whose identities are already disabled. Okay,
Okay.
so they have left the company, but still some of their accounts are active. If I
Okay.
get a list of all such user accounts, one thing is that I pulled out a report. The second
Okay.
part of it is that I also disable those accounts, right? So that makes more sense, right? That even if you have put up, if you are able to fetch a report, what do you do with that report is also important. Rather, it is
Okay.
more important, because there is no point of just knowing where the problem is if you cannot resolve it, right?
Okay.
And that is the reason you have the possibility of writing an actionable analytics. So the
Okay.
SQL queries will remain the same, but after the SQL query, you can take some action on the people who are part of that report. You can
Okay.
either disable their account, you can either provide them new access, you can provision their accounts, you can provide them new entitlements, you can do all
Okay.
of these things, right? So that
Yeah.
those are called as actionable analytics. As the name denotes, it has actionable associated with it. So obviously you are taking action on the report that you're fetching. Okay.
Okay.
So we have a look at the normal analytics first. Okay.
Okay.
So what we are going to do is, again, we are going to, if you remember, since I mean from our past trainings, we have discussed admin, we've
Yes.
discussed roles, SODs, and ARS, right?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we're going to discuss analytics. So you click on
Okay.
analytics, you click on the left side, analytics configurations, and then you click on action and then create new. So when you click on create new, you'll see using SQL query. You are creating an analytics using SQL query.
Okay.
Now, these are the kind of SQL queries that you will write. Okay. So
Okay.
this is for the same example that I was giving you, inactive users with active accounts.
Okay.
By now, we have also understood why is that a problem? Why should
Okay.
we not having inactive user with active accounts? And
Okay.
remember always that user denotes user identities, right? Whereas
Yes.
accounts denote what accesses, or let's say to which applications do they have access to. right?
Okay.
Now, let's discuss this query. What are we doing here? Okay. So within Saviynt, there are different objects, as in every database, right? You'll have
Yeah.
some objects. Within those objects, you'll have certain attributes or columns, and within those
Okay.
columns, you store values, right? So
Yes.
obviously, if I want to store value, or if I want to talk about users, what will be some of the attributes that users will have? Users will have their first name, they will have their last name, they will have their status, they will have their email ID. This is going to, I mean, be part of their table, let's say, right, or object.
Okay.
Then you have accounts. So accounts will include account name. Account name. So I was telling you the other day, right, that some target applications might have a different criteria of giving account names. Some
Yeah.
might say that, okay, my if you want to create account on Salesforce, your username has to have a domain name associated with it, which means at the gmail.com, let's say. Whereas there are some other applications, as in if you log into your net banking, there you have a username which is not in the form of an email address, right? It is
Okay.
some unique value, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, if you go to IRCTC, they will give you a unique username, and that username need not have to be in a form of @domain.com. It should not be an email ID, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
basically, as per the target application, the way the username is expected to be is different, correct?
Yes.
So obviously, the way we need to provision user to that application will also differ, right?
Okay.
Within each application. So let's say in case of Salesforce, my username has to be in the email format, whereas in case of IRCTC, it has to be a normal username. It just need to
Username.
be a unique value. So because it
Okay.
dependent, so because it is dependent on the target application, that how the attributes should be, those needs to be stored in a
Mm.
separate table, right? Because obviously
Yeah.
the user identities is going to remain the same for all the users, but depending upon which application do they want access to, and what type and what is the requirement of that application itself, that is what will decide that, okay, you need to store username in this format, first name in this format. Some applications call last name as surname, other application called surname as last name, right? So all of these are dependent on the target application that we are dealing with, and that
Yeah.
is why we have a separate table called as accounts table, which stores it for individual accounts, and each account denotes a target application. So when I'm talking
Okay.
about, let's say, account name, right,
Okay.
this account name, if I'm talking about Salesforce, it will become, let's say, ABC. Whereas if I'm talking about, let's say, your Facebook account, it will become abc.com, right?
Okay.
Right. And then we
Yes, I
have,
can understand.
yeah, and then we have endpoint name. So every target application, so we've discussed this, that what is an endpoint? Basically, an endpoint is a logical representation of the target application that we are dealing with, right? So in
Yeah.
our case, if we are taking an example of Salesforce, let's consider it Salesforce. So we are saying that there is a table called as endpoints table. Okay, so we are denoting endpoints as EP. We are just using a
Okay.
variable so that we don't have to write endpoints over and over again. Similarly,
Okay.
accounts denoted by ACC variables. So we've just defined variables here. Okay.
Okay.
But irrespective, the point here is that we have different kind of tables. Each of those tables contains specific attributes which we can use to fetch reports. So here what
Okay.
happens is, we are saying that select user's username, which is the unique username of the user. So all this represents users table, right?
Okay.
So users table denotes users identity. So you have username, first name, last name, manager, account name, and endpoint name. We have received all this information, and then we are saying that we want to get all such users where, so these are just to make sure that we are selecting basically between users table, and there are two tables, right? One is users table, one is accounts table. There is also a users account table. Why is that table, why does that table exist? Because we've talked about this, that there is a user identity, and then there are users accounts, but we'll have to create a correlation between the two, right? I need to know that this Salesforce account,
Yes.
this Outlook account, this let's say box account, all of these accounts belongs to Deepa. So I'll have to maintain that correlation.
Okay.
So in the users table, you'll have Deepa, her first name and all those details. Within the accounts table, you'll have that Deepa .salesforce.com, Deepa.outlook.com, or all the details related to the target applications. And there will be
Okay.
accounts table which will hold the mapping of both these two, right? So
Okay.
let's say the username key or the user key will be associated with the account key of all these three applications within the
Okay.
user account table. So that's how the correlation will work, right? So you need
Okay.
not worry a lot about how this works because within Saviynt there is something called as a data analyzer. Okay,
Okay.
you go to admin, you can go on the left side and there will be something called as a data analyzer. And within that data analyzer, you will see all the objects, all the tables that are present within Saviynt. If you click on those tables, all the columns which are present under that table, and if you hover over it, you'll also get to see what that table contains or what that column, what type of values does that column hold. So you can explore that. Okay, don't be worried about it. So
Okay.
that is how everything
Okay.
works within it. Okay.
Okay.
But what you need to know, there are three, four, or let's say in all total five type of tables that you need to know of. One is endpoint table, which will hold value of the endpoint, that is a target application that you're dealing with. The
Okay.
users table, the accounts table, and then you'll have the entitlements table. So I told you the last time as well that you can give access to a person to a certain application, target application. But within that target application, what access are you giving to that person? Right? That is called as entitlement. You and
Yes.
can both have Salesforce account, but once you log in, you might see different things. I might see different things, right? And
Yes.
that is based on entitlements. So you also have an entitlements table. What will the entitlements table hold? That okay, this user has access to this application, but within that application, what are the entitlements that the user is part of, right?
Okay.
All those details would be there. So basically, what we are saying is that all this information is stored, which you can use to write SQL queries to generate reports. If you look at this query, the most important part of this query is this. Okay, this is the actually the entire logic. It is
Okay.
saying that if the user's status key is zero, right? U
Okay.
dot status key is equals to zero, which means users dot status key is equals to zero, which means user is inactive.
Okay.
And if account dot status is 1, which means account's status is active,
Okay.
then we'll have to pick all such users. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the logic that we were trying to discuss anyways, that we want all such users who are
Okay.
inactive, whose identities are inactive, but whose accounts are active for some reason, right?
Yeah.
We want to get all such accounts. Now, so let's say I created a new SQL query and I
Okay.
pasted it here in analytics query, gave
Yeah.
it a name, inactive users with active accounts, gave it a status. And if you see here, there is a very good option called as allowed action. So this is what I
Okay.
was talking about, that you have two options. One is that you only fetch report of all such users. And second
Okay.
is that if you also want to take action on those which are part
Okay.
of those, right? You can
Yeah.
mention it in allowed action. So whether you want to accept such users, whether you want to revoke access of such accounts, or if you want to further review it, you can do
Okay.
anything. Even if you don't want to do it, it is fine. While you are configuring it, we mention it as an allowed action. So in case you want to do that later on, you have that functionality ready. Otherwise, if
Okay.
you mention it here and later on you want that, okay, I want to revoke access of all such users, you won't be able to do that.
Okay.
Okay. There is also something called as category. So with it, it's not very important, but basically more or less what we are doing here is we are just gathering information. And that is why
Okay.
it is information refresh, right?
Okay.
Then you have risk associated, that all such users who have some accounts active but their identities are inactive, they pose a very high risk, right? And that is why I have marked the risk as high.
Okay.
Now let's say I execute it. Okay, I
Okay.
click on submit and I click on preview. Okay, so
Okay.
again a good point about Saviynt is that Saviynt will give you a preview of the results. Okay,
Okay.
and you'll be able to see whether you are getting all the required details or not. Okay, before
Okay.
actually executing the report, because
Okay.
what might happen is that you might have 10,000 such accounts of users who have left the company, but there are some account, for some people it is sales, for some for some Outlook account was not disabled, for some Yammer account was not disabled, and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
Before getting the bigger report, you get a smaller subset to review whether this is exactly what you're looking for, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
username of all such users, first name of all such users, last name, their manager, their account name, and so on, right? So
Yes.
you can see that okay, it looks fine to me. And if you it finds to you, then you can actually click on run now. Once you click on run now, you'll see this. there it will ask you that we are going to generate a report. Just tell us which type of data type do you want the column to be in. So I'm saying I
Okay.
want all of them to be in string format. They all should be visible and filterable. Okay. And then
Okay.
once I click on submit, okay, this will get
Okay.
saved. Okay. Once it gets saved, I click on run and then run now.
Okay.
And now you'll
So
see
if you
that,
click on run, what will happen? So we'll get the report.
yeah, the report will get generated. So
Okay.
now you will see this control run summary. How many records were identified as part of your report? Five. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you want to see what are those records, you can go to analytics history. So if you see here itself, here run history, you can go
Okay.
here as well. So you can click on run, and after running now, so you've run now,
Okay.
you got this prompt. Now you want to see the result, so you can also go to run history because you've already run it. So it will contain a value in run history. You can go there as well, or in the same analytics, you can click on, sorry, yeah, in the same analytics, you can, where do you go? Yeah, you can go on analytics history, and within analytics history, what is the type of job that we chose? We chose information refresh. So you can click on information refresh, and here you'll be able to see the first one. No, this one, the second last. Inactive users with active accounts. Here
Okay.
you see that how many conflicts are there? Five conflicts are there, right? So you can
Okay.
either click on view history or you can click on this five number as well. Ultimately, you'll be able to see all the users who are part of this report or whose
Okay.
accounts are now part of that report. So you
Okay.
have username, first name, last name, manager name, and endpoint. So if you see, how do you identify that, okay, which target application are we talking about? So you can see here that endpoint name is Active Directory. So this person, Andra Shubhante, right? For this
Yeah.
person, their Active Directory account was not disabled. For this person,
Okay.
Teresa Kaspari, their Active Directory account was not disabled, right? So
Okay.
P. Sanjeev, their Amigo Pod account was not disabled. So their
Okay.
identities have been disabled, but their accounts are not, right?
Okay.
So this is exactly what we wanted to see, correct?
Yes.
Now, there are some reports where we just want this. We have generated a report because I can share it with, let's say, my leadership, get their insights that what do they want to do with all such users and stuff like that. The
Okay.
second part of it is they might tell me that you should go ahead and disable all such users. So what you can do is if you want to do action individually, you can click on the drop down, and then whatever you see in the drop down will be what you configured here. If you remember, I
Okay.
told you, right, that you have allowed action.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have accept, revoke, and further review. So that is
Yes.
what
Yes.
you're able to see here as well. Okay, allowed, accept, or further review. Now,
Okay.
if you want to take action individually, you can do that. If you want to take the same action for all such users, now you might ask that, okay, Amit, we might have 5,000 accounts. How would I do it individually? Obviously, you won't be able to. In that case, you can do from here, selected action. Choose the option that you want, and the same will be applicable to all the users which are part of the report,
Okay.
right? And then you click on submit. So what they are suggesting is that as part of this report, click action as accept for the first couple of records and select further review for another one, right? So
Okay.
you can
Yeah.
choose two different and then you can choose a different action for the other one. So this is basically what is called as analytics. Okay. So
Okay.
analytics is nothing but it is mostly about generating reports or doing the governance piece of identity and access management. Okay. Is this understood?
Yes, I can understand.
Okay. So the second part is called as the runtime analytics. Now, what is the runtime analytics? So the second thing that we were talking about was runtime analytics. What is runtime
Okay.
analytics? There is one part of database or the usual databases where the values are already saved, and obviously there are some database whose values will be let's say will be getting updated on the runtime, right? Because it is a production system. Obviously at the runtime there will be some users will be getting more access, some users will be leaving the company, and all those things will keep on happening, right?
Yes.
For all such scenarios you can write something called as a runtime analytics. So runtime analytics will give you just a reporting capability of the system system currently. Okay, whatever the current data that we have. So if you remember,
Okay.
whatever columns or tables that we used in our last query, most of them were static in nature, right?
Okay.
Whatever values are already stored within the database, we were fetching report according to that. But
Yes.
what if I want to get, let's say, a deep dive into it, and at this point in time, exactly in this point in time, what you can do? So if you can see here, you have analytics name, you have written a query. So what query have you written is select case status key when zero, then inactive, when one, then active, and end as label count as data from users group by label. So right now what you have done is you've generated a report where you just wanted the data points. You did not want to see all the users' name. You just want to get numbers out of it. Correct?
Okay.
Here you can see that how many active users do we have? 2,500, let's say 2,507, and how many of them are inactive? Just four, right? So
Yes.
what's important is that we don't always want to see the user information. At times we just want the governance piece to give us the numbers, and that is what runtime analytics is for, that you know
Okay.
the present numbers. So how did they do that? They wrote select case status key. We know what status key is, right? So they are
Yes.
saying that status key when zero, which means that when the user identity is inactive, then name the column as inactive, right? That's what happened here. We gave it as
Okay.
a name inactive. Label we have given inactive, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then when one, then active, and as label, right? So we have given label. So end as,
Okay.
and we just want the count. We don't want the actual user values. That is why we have put a comma and we have put a count function. Okay,
Okay.
and we have passed star as a placeholder. Okay, because we want count of all these columns that we're talking about as
Yes.
data from users group by label. Okay, so all this information that we got was from the users table, and we have grouped them according to the label. So one label would be active, second label would be inactive, and then there would be data, right?
Okay.
So if you see here, the label with active, inactive, and the data one did not got print, but ideally it would be data. Oh, sorry, the data is the column, right?
Okay. Yeah.
We have grouped by label. So according to the label, we have active and inactive. There are certain accounts which could be in the dormant state, or they are temporarily inactive, but we have not provided that condition. That is why you have 10 users whose label is not defined. But this
Okay.
thing like this happen all the time, because though we want to, every user is not just active or inactive in an identity management system. Okay, there will be some users who are on long leave for 2 months,
Okay.
who are on maternity leaves. For such
Okay.
users, they are not left the company, but they are not active either, right? So in such cases, what you will do is you will give them
Yeah.
temporary inactive, something like that. So that's the
Okay.
reason. But anyways, more or less, we've got the gist of it, that we what we want to do with runtime analytics. With
Yeah.
runtime analytics, we wanted to generate reports which are based on current data and are more numerical in nature. Okay.
Okay.
Now, actionable analytics is also something that we've already discussed, so I don't think so we need to again discuss it, but we can just see another example. So what we are saying is that I want to get all the users whose managers are not there. Okay. So
Okay.
this analytics report will display all the orphan AD accounts and provide an action to deprovision them. What are orphan accounts? Either accounts which are not associated with the user identity. So if I found Deepa's account in Active Directory, but that account is not associated to her identity in Saviynt, right? So
Okay.
I get to know there could be 300 Deepas in my company. How would I know which Deepa's account is which, right? So
Yeah.
ideally, they should be linked to their accounts, so that let's say if I disable or terminate your identity, your accounts also get disabled at the same time. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
When you leave the company. So that is why if there is an account which we do not know anything about, it is better to disable it till the time no one comes in and says that okay, it is my account. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
So for all such users, what you can do is you can write a query. But while we are writing query, obviously we are just selecting what we want to see it as part of the report. The actual logic is here. Okay, and even if you see here, the actual logic actually starts from select account key from user accounts, and then we want to have the system name as Active Directory, and account key as AE1 accounts key order by system one. What is AE1? So that must be account. Yeah.
Mm.
So account key. Okay. So
Entitlement.
we have a dot account key as account key, and where is the declaration? Yeah, accounts and entitlements table, right? So as I
Yes.
told you, you have one table which will hold accounts information, you have one table which will hold entitlement information, and there will be one table which will hold association between that account and entitlement. That will be a separate column or separate table, right?
Okay.
That is why we term it as accounts entitlements one. Okay.
Okay.
So this is what I mean. This is how their database is designed. You'll have a users table, you'll have accounts table, you have entitlements table, and then you'll also have user accounts table. You'll also have accounts entitlement table. You'll have users entitlement table. Why? Because these objects or these tables or or this data altogether cannot work independently. They need to be correlated to each other. Only that is how an identity management system gets formed, right? If I
Okay.
know that users that Deepa's identity exists within Saviynt, but I don't know which accounts is Deepa's account, right?
Yes.
Then it makes no sense. I might have details about all the accounts that you have. I might have details about your user identity, but if it is not correlated, I might not be able to do anything. And that is the case with entitlements as well. I might have your entitlements and your account information both independently, but I need the correlation as well. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we are saying is that we'll fetch a report of all such users and then we'll take action on it. So if you remember, I told you right that you can that while you are taking action, you need to provide them in allowed action. So if you see here, I provided the allowed action as deprovision account. Why deprovision account? Because we have decided that if there is a person whose account is active, but it is not associated to any user's identity, we want to deprovision that account. We want to remove that account from Active Directory itself. Correct? And that
Yes.
is why I mentioned allowed action as deprovision account. So now what I did was that I wrote that query. Okay, I clicked on save. I clicked on preview. Okay, when I clicked on preview, I was able to see the first five entries.
Okay.
Okay, so I was able to understand that okay, this is exactly what I'm looking forward to. Now I can click on create. Okay, so once I click on create, this will get saved. Once this gets saved, I will click on run and then run now. Once I click on run now, I'll be able to see all the conflicts when I go to history. Okay. So if you see AD orphan accounts actionable, this is a report which got generated. How many conflicts are there? 637. Okay. What I will
Okay.
do, I will click on those conflicts. I will click on that. This report will get opened. Now, individually, if I want, I can remove access from here itself. And that is the
Okay.
important point that if you remember, I was telling you that you have an option of you only generate the report, and maybe you can click on action and put all this data in an Excel. Okay, and then share it across. But if you want to take action on it as well, you can do that from here only, and that is why now it is called as actionable analytics. So I clicked on the drop down and then I clicked on deprovision account, and this account will get for this user will get disabled. Okay,
Okay.
and this is all that I wanted. And as I told you, it if it is needed, it will go for approval. Most of the time when you are taking the access away, it doesn't need approval, correct? Because the
Yes.
problem is providing over access, the problem is not giving less access. So obviously it will get this will trigger a task. Okay, because it is not going for any request, there will be no request, but a task will get created. And where will be the task get created? In pending task. Okay, so if you
Okay.
remember last time we were talking about this, right? That we have a pending task created, and then I will have to run the provisioning job. So the provisioning jobs, as the name suggests, does not only talk about creating new account on the target application. Even if you want to revoke access or change the status of the user, still you'll have to run the provisioning job. Why? Because whenever you want to send a request from Saviynt to the target application, it will be through the provisioning job. Okay, because you're pushing information. Whenever you're pulling information, that will be called as reconciliation, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is how analytics works. Okay. Now, another point is that if you want to create analytics or dashboarding, let's leave. It's just not at all important. I'll just tell you about the feature, but there are very few people which actually uses it. Okay. So in case I've generated a report, but rather than seeing the data, I want to see it in a graphical manner as a
Okay.
dashboard. Okay. So Saviynt allows you to do that as well. For that, you can go to role admin. There is an option called as dashboards. There are various pre-configured dashboards which are there. Within that, if you want, you can click on analytics, click on add dashboard, and then you type orphan accounts, and the one that you get, this is the one, right? You check
Yeah.
mark this. Once you check mark this, you'll be able to see that, okay, within Oracle, these many, in Elvin Dev, there are 7,467 orphan accounts. In Oracle, there are 48 orphan accounts, and in usual system, there are two orphan accounts. So you'll
Okay.
be able to do it in a graphical manner. Okay. This is not very important because dashboarding is, I mean, is used, but it is not that important as, let's say, analytics or other things. So in this lab, what we've discussed till now is how to create analytics using SQL query, how to create runtime analytics, that is basically reporting with numbers, and then how to create actionable analytics, basically generating a report and then taking an action on it as well, right? And then we
Yeah.
also discuss very briefly how do we have or how do we configure dashboards.
Okay.
Once you see what you want to achieve, and once you see that, okay, these are the columns, these are the attributes between those columns, write the SQL query by yourself. Okay. And try to run it. If it runs, if it doesn't run, if it fails, it's all fine, because you
Okay.
know that at least two three queries you already have it here. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you can evaluate whether the one that I wrote and the one that they wrote, how different they were, and you
Okay.
also be able to identify if you are missing, what are you exactly missing. Correct.
Okay.
So it is mostly about trial and error. And
Okay.
between these SQL queries, there are four or five objects which are more important as compared to others. Because as I told you earlier as well, identity and access management majorly talks about three, four objects. It talks about user identities, so we need a users table. We talk about their accounts in different applications, so for that we need an accounts table. We
Yes.
need what access do they have within those accounts, so we need entitlements table, and at most we need roles table, because we want to
Okay.
group together these entitlements so that rather than providing individually, we can create a role. So if you
Okay.
understand these three, four tables uh, well enough, right, that is all that you need. Okay. Because see, what happens is from a business perspective, any more complex thing may also arise. Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, that is not that important because it won't be expecting out of you because you are new to Saviynt anyways, right?
Yeah.
So they will just ask you whether you know about it or no, not. They'll just ask you whether what is analytics, why it is used, can we do something more rather than just generating reports? What kind of
Okay.
objects do we have within analytics? How do we use those objects? These kind of things at max. So nothing over and above.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
What else?
already I know Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
I know very well. But you said no SQL, MySQL is used.
So that doesn't actually create a lot of difference, because if you see what see how one SQL database is different from others is majorly because of the functions that you use. Correct. So
Yeah.
more or less, if you know the column name, the select query is going to remain as it is. But if there are any complex queries in terms of writing custom functions, using those functions to execute certain operations, that level when you reach, that is when difference between two databases starts becoming apparent. But in
So
this case,
what language I should learn? I should learn MySQL or Oracle well.
MySQL.
MySQL. Okay.
See, MySQL, and that too, that's what I'm saying, that if you already know Oracle, it is not very different. I believe the select query will still remain the same if you write it
Yes,
in
yes,
Oracle as
yes.
well. Correct. The
Yeah.
only thing that is going to change is the name of the table, and that doesn't actually depend either on Oracle or MySQL. It basically depends on the data on how Saviynt
We
is
are
designed, how
fetching.
Savient's
Hmm.
database is designed, right? So
Okay.
what
Yeah.
you need not focus on learning any new language for this. You just
Okay.
need to understand how the tables are designed and how to write queries. Logically, you'll know, correct?
Yeah.
Because there are no separate functions which needs to be learned. There is no, I mean, if you ask me, when I write my analytics query, right, what I do is and if I want to validate the syntax, let's say if I'm missing on any comma, or if I have not put any and, right, things like that, I will
Okay.
copy this, I will go to let's say Chrome, and I'll just write validate SQL. I don't even put whether I'm validating MySQL or Oracle database or my SQL DB,
MySQL.
right?
Okay.
Because more or less the queries are very simple. It becomes difficult when you are at a very advanced stage of writing queries.
Okay.
So if you see here, they've written u dot user key is equals to ua dot user key. What does that mean? That means that within the users table there is a user key for that user,
Column. Yes.
right? Yeah, within the users column there is a user key which is stored.
Yes.
Similarly, there is a user key which is also stored in the users account table,
Account table.
right?
So in
So why
one table it will be stored as primary key, in another one it is stored as foreign key. Yes.
no
Am I
no
right?
that's not even important. I mean, it
Okay.
must be, it could be that way, but the logic here is what we are
Okay.
trying to do is we are trying to see that the user's status key or the user key, we are talking about the same user or not. So
Okay. Yeah.
why? Because the user key is unique to the user. So the in the users, yeah, sorry, yeah, in the users column, user key would be the primary key, as you rightly mentioned, right? And the
Yeah.
second, it will be the foreign key. But that is from a
Okay.
database perspective. From
Yes.
sales perspective, what we are trying to achieve is we want to see that we are talking about the same user in both the tables, correct?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
what might happen is that here I'm talking about Deepa, you, right? But in
Yeah.
the user accounts table, there was another Deepa, right?
Yes.
So the query might give invalid results. So what we
Yes.
want rather than that is that we want to talk about the same user key within both these tables, correct?
Yeah.
So that is a uniqueness thing that we want to include, and that is why you'll see that a lot. Even here, you'll see that within the user accounts table, there is a account key. What is an account key? For each target application that the user have access to, there will be a unique account key which will be provided to that user. So let's say if you have access to Active Directory, you will be provided a primary key, which will denote that you have access to that particular application. Okay, so
Okay.
so if you have four accounts, one is Active Directory, one is Outlook, one is Salesforce, one is SuccessFactors. For each of this target application, you will have separate account key. Okay,
Okay.
so this account key will be stored in the accounts table. Okay, so because it is being stored in accounts table, obviously it will be stored in the user accounts table as well. Why? Because the user key is going to remain a primary key. There is only one
Okay.
user key, but for each target application, you have an account key, right?
Yes.
So the way we were denoting the logical version of it, where we were saying that one user can have access to multiple application at the database level, how it is maintained that there is only one user key, and that user key has relation to all these account keys, right? So
Mm.
basically, the user is Deepa, and then this is Deepa's Salesforce account, this is Deepa's Active Directory account, this is Deepa's Teams account, and this is Deepa's Box account. Each of them is a unique key, correct? But all
Yes.
of them are related to what? The unique user key, correct? So that's what
Yeah.
we want to do. That we have something called as user accounts table as well, within which we have an account key, and we have account key within the accounts table as well, right? So that
Yeah.
account.
User account and account. What is the difference?
Right. So, as I told you, in user account, you'll have the correlation between the user and the accounts,
Okay.
right? Because if you have four accounts and there is only one Deepa and Deepa has four accounts, so she will have only one user key, right?
Yes.
So she'll have only one column or a primary key within the users table, and
Okay.
that has to be correlated with all her accounts. So I'll have to store that correlation somewhere. Where am I storing it? I'm storing in the user's account key, right? So
Okay.
user accounts table, I'm sorry, user accounts table. So that's why we need it. So individually, I was storing users. This is the users table. This is the accounts table, right? Where is the accounts table? You have this is the accounts ACC, the accounts table, right? So
Okay.
basically, the users table will store all the user related information. Account will store all the account related information. But these users and accounts has to be correlated with each other, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I terminate your identity, how will your access to all the target application will go away? It goes away because there is a correlation which exists between both. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
So that correlation is being maintained in a third table, which is called as a user accounts table.
Okay.
Okay. So as I'm mentioning you, if you think from a Venn diagram perspective, you can make one circle, name it as users. You can make a second circle and make it as accounts. And the correlation with the common area between those which are overlapping, you can mention it as a user and accounts. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
So the same information that you have in users table, part of that. So see, if you have 10 entries or 10 attributes within the users table, and you have 10 attributes in the accounts table, 5 from both will exist in the user accounts table. Okay, so the
Okay.
user account table will have 5 attributes, but those 5 will also exist in the users table. 5 of those 5 will also exist in the accounts table. So that's how you are maintaining the correlation. Okay,
Okay.
so you
Yeah.
understand it more the more you basically try and the more you learn about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, what we want to understand is from logical perspective that what we are trying to achieve, right? Then how
Yeah.
do we do it is something that we can figure out. Correct?
Okay.